Good evening and welcome to the city's Know Your Rights and Safety Planning Immigration session this evening. My name is Daniel Biss. I'm the mayor of Evanston. I'm joined this evening by Commander Scott Saphir of our police department, by Liza Robertson-Young, our chief legislative policy officer, and by Megan McClung from the Moran Center for Youth Advocacy. I just want to thank this group for being a part of working to continually refine the way in which we inform the community about how to best address the circumstances that we find ourselves in. This is an awful moment. The attacks coming from the Trump administration are chaotic, quickly changing, and in many cases barbaric. And so we have a responsibility to continue getting information out as facts change, as the administration's plans change, and as we learn more and more about both what to expect and what works best. The last thing I want to say is that the fundamental principle of this administration is to divide and conquer. Their idea is that they can pick off groups one at a time to attack them in the hopes that our community will not stand together in solidarity, and that the best and most important way for us to keep our people safe is for us to all stand together shoulder to shoulder and not allow ourselves to be divided. That is my commitment. That's the city's commitment. And I think that is what we must do in order to best weather this extremely difficult moment. And with that, I want to turn it over to Ms. Robertson-Young.
Thank you, Mayor Biss. I'm Liza Robertson-Young, Chief Legislative Policy Advisor for the city, and I'm going to talk to you about some of the legislative work that we're doing to ensure that Evanston has the most robust safeguards it possibly can have in place to protect against the overreaches that we're seeing in immigration enforcement with the current administration. So back in 2016, we passed a welcoming city ordinance. And what this ordinance did was it said that city officials won't participate in federal civil immigration enforcement. It also stated that city officials, staff, and police will not inquire about somebody's immigration status. So we're really proud of that ordinance. But since 2016, there have been some developments in the law. The state law in this area has been amended to close some loopholes and strengthen its protections. Other municipalities have strengthened their laws. And then we've also seen emerging issues in immigration enforcement that we didn't fully contemplate back in 2016, particularly regarding the federal government's use of local government data to target people based on immigration or citizenship status. So we've updated our new ordinance. We moved quickly to do this in early January. So we had it in place with the force of law before the new administration took office. And there are really three things that I want to highlight about our new ordinance that I think are really important. First of all, the updated ordinance ensures that data collected by the city will not be used for immigration enforcement. It says that the city won't share any city database or data sharing platform with immigration officials or with any other federal agency if the purpose of seeking access is for enforcing immigration law, or, and I think this part is really critical and novel, with any third parties like private data brokers who resell information that they obtain from cities and local governments to ICE, unless the third party certifies that the information that we give them won't be used for immigration purposes. And this is really important because we know now that ICE routinely uses data obtained from local government. It exploits that data that people are required to give to state and local agencies and institutions in exchange for essential services, and it uses that information to surveil people and target immigration enforcement. So we now have a law in place that ensures that city data that Evanston residents are required to share with the city will not be weaponized against them in this way. We're really proud of this provision. We are the first unit of government in the state to enact this kind of data sharing protection. If we're not the first in the nation, we're one of the first. And we see now that other communities are already filing suit. There's a state bill on file that would mirror this provision. I know other neighboring municipalities are starting to look at this as well. So I think this is really critical. The second thing the ordinance does that I want to talk about is that it closes some loopholes that formerly permitted the city to participate in civil immigration enforcement. And those include exceptions for if someone was listed in a gang database, had been charged with but not convicted of a crime, or had an old unrelated felony conviction for which they'd served their time. That's not the thing that ICE is targeting them for now. And so we now will not cooperate with ICE if it's a civil immigration enforcement operation, and that's one of the bases. We will still continue to comply as we're required to do by law if we're presented with a valid current criminal warrant that comports with constitutional requirements of probable cause. But we've closed up these loopholes. And so I think that's another really important change. And then the third thing that I want to highlight is that the updated ordinance says that the city won't participate in civil immigration enforcement with any immigration agent, including not only ICE agents, which is how the original ordinance could have been interpreted, but also other federal agents that may be deputized to do immigration enforcement, and also really critically with private entities, for instance, private prison corporations who are operating immigration detention facilities. We will not share information with them either. We know that there's a movement to really expand immigration detention facilities operated by private prison corporations, and we're not going to share our data with them. So those are kind of, I think, the three biggest things that the new ordinance does that I really wanted to share with you today. And now I am happy to hand it over to Megan McClung from the Moran Center, who's going to do the Know Your Rights training portion of the program.
Thank you, Liza. My name's Megan McClung. I am a managing attorney with the civil legal team at the Moran Center for Youth Advocacy. Just as a quick disclaimer, as an attorney, I need to note that the Moran Center currently only provides limited immigration legal services focusing on the youth. What you're going to hear from me tonight is not intended to be legal advice. Instead, this is a Know Your Rights, and we're also going to talk about safety planning. At the Moran Center, we've stepped up and recognized the urgent need for basic immigration counseling and legal advice, and we're trying to deepen our knowledge to serve the community. We've gathered information and resources available for immigrant families. We've posted it on the top of our Moran Center website, and I'll quickly cover that later. But today, what we're going to talk about is Know Your Rights, safety planning, as well as appointment of temporary guardians for immigrant children and immigration legal resources. Again, all of this that you'll hear from me today, you can also find on the Moran Center website. Going to Know Your Rights. City of Evanston, as well as the Moran Center, we have Know Your Right cards. We have them in several languages. We have them in a form that is the size of a credit card that you can keep in your wallet. I'm going to go through what those rights are. And if an officer comes to your door, any officer, you do not open the door. Teach your children to not open the door. And what you want to do is ask the officer to slide a valid judicial warrant under your door. Officers cannot enter your property without a valid judicial warrant. We have seen that ICE officers are using ICE forms and claiming they are warrants. A valid warrant needs to be signed by a judge. It needs to have your name on it. If they're going to search the property, it needs to identify the property. So no warrant, no entry, only a valid warrant. ICE forms do not count. You do not have to answer any questions should there be a valid warrant. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to call an attorney. Again, there are Know Your Right cards available at the city as well as at the Moran Center. You could slide one of these Know Your Right cards under the door. If there's no warrant, you could put it on the window, letting them know that you know your rights, you're not answering the door, you're not answering questions, and that you're calling your attorney. If you find yourself outside of your home, at your workplace, any public place, and you find yourself talking to an ICE officer, remain silent. That right still applies. Do not discuss your immigration status and do not sign anything you do not understand. Say that you want to talk to an attorney. If you need to reach an attorney, again, I highly recommend calling the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, also known as ICIRR. They have a family support hotline, and it can directly connect you with a private attorney or a legal aid attorney. That number is 855-435-7693. Again, 855-435-7693. Safety planning. For immigrant families, no matter your status, it is something to have ready, and we're going to go through these steps on what that safety plan looks like. Again, these key steps and a safety plan form can be found on the Moran Center website. Step 1, identify your emergency contact. Who will pick up your children from school and explain the situation if you're detained? Who is your trusted individual? So identify your emergency contact is step 1. Step 2, if you have children, designate a temporary guardian who will take care of your children and inform their school that they have temporary guardianship. I'll talk very quickly about what a temporary guardian is, but the temporary guardian is somebody you trust to step in and be the role of the parent for your child should you be detained or deported. Guardians' responsibilities. First of all, they must agree to the guardianship. And then second, what you want to do is fill out a form. It can be found on the Moran Center website. This is an Illinois form. It is state specific by statute. It's very easy to fill out. You do not need a lawyer. There are some scams out there where people are claiming $200. They'll help you fill out the temporary guardianship form. You do not need an attorney. You can do this on your own. It's so easy. The only thing you need is one parent to sign it, 2 witnesses to the parent signing the form, and then have it also signed by the designated guardian. Once you have a valid temporary guardianship form, be sure to give it to your emergency contact if that's not the same person as your temporary guardian. Store it with your important papers and provide it to a trusted source at the school. Just the temporary guardianship form with the school. On the Moran Center website, you can find the temporary guardianship form. For it to be valid, you have to fill out the English version. We also have it in Spanish for help with understanding and translating. However, only the English form can be valid. Step 3, memorize your emergency contact phone number. Again, this emergency contact should be somebody you trust. Their phone number should be memorized by you and by your children in case you get separated, detained, and you don't have access to your cell phone. Step 4 is share your key information with your emergency contact and a temporary guardian if you've appointed one for your children. That key information, if you go to the Moran Center website, you'll see a form where it designates names and phone numbers and addresses. It's a document that should only be given to very trusted sources. Make sure that it is kept in a very secure place. And step 5, you want to keep these important documents ready, including the safety plan, temporary guardianship form. Have it in a secure, accessible location. Also have a copy of it somewhere else so you have a backup. And it's also very key to have it on your phone as photos, on your children's phone as photos, so that they have easy access to it as well. Important documents to keep in an accessible location together are your identifications, such as birth certificates, social security numbers, passports, consular IDs, and driver's licenses. You should also have medical records in place and doctor's contacts information. If you own property, such as a car or home, the deed or the vehicle title, and financial information such as bank accounts, tax records, or any power of attorneys. Step 6, be sure to carry on you just your necessary important contact information. Should you need to get a hold of anybody in an emergency, such as your children's teachers, property owner, doctors, trusted community organizations, lawyers, community leaders, and your consulate phone number. Step 7, safety plan distribution. Again, just make sure that you're sharing it with trusted individuals. Make sure it's in a secure location that your emergency contact can also help access. You may also want to have a go bag and keep copies of the documents in one place that you could quickly grab if you had to. I've referenced the Moran Center website. I'd like to show you a picture of that front page. We're working on it. You'll see on the Moran Center website, which is moran-center.org, that you can find additional resources. There we go. So at the very top of our website homepage is a green banner, and resources are at the top. And again, we encourage you to contact local experts in immigration law if you require immigration legal services. You'll find on that resources tab access to information provided the Resurrection Project, the National Immigrant Justice Center, the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, as well as a website to find a private immigration attorney in your area. You'll also see safety plan. That is where you can find the steps that I just went over, as well as a key document for putting together all of your key information. It's fillable. That is, again, something you want to just give to your trusted sources in your emergency contact. And you'll find all of that in both English and Spanish. Thank you very much. I will now turn it over to Officer Scott Sofier.
Thank you so much, Megan. While we're getting some slides up that I will be presenting, I just do want to say that it is a pleasure to be here with city leadership and with Megan from the Moran Center to be able to collaboratively work on giving information out that is hopefully beneficial to the community. And in times where there are a lot of opinions or beliefs as to what law enforcement is or is not doing or can or cannot do, it's important to be able to push accurate information so that people do understand how that does work today. So first and foremost, I do want to speak about the police department itself. Our 140 sworn officers and our support staff is a truly diverse team that does work to respect the community every time we are out on calls for service and working through the different programs that we have. We do have many programs and services that we offer that are rooted in community partnerships, such as our Community Police Academy, our Spanish Community Police Academy, our Books and Badges programs, National Night Out, and there's many more in which we seek to positively engage with the community and not just meet people during times of crisis or other problems. The police department does strive to be compassionate and empathetic in how we deliver service, and we do absolutely understand that there is apprehension about speaking to and cooperating with the police. And that apprehension for many goes long before the current issues that we've experienced here in Evanston just over the past couple of months. We are committed to adhering to all local ordinances and state of Illinois laws regarding protections of the immigrant community. And our guiding principles for all who live and work in Evanston, as well as those who visit the city, is to provide that safe space, free of victimization, intimidation, and harassment. And it should be very, very clearly known that immigration status has no bearing on how we adhere to these goals, none whatsoever. I want to speak on laws and local ordinances and how that impacts the delivery of service from the Evanston Police Department. There are laws protecting undocumented immigrants at the state level, and the city of Evanston has adopted ordinances protecting undocumented immigrants at the local level as well. The Evanston Police Department has formal policies that mandate following both state of Illinois law and Evanston's city code. When I use the word mandate, I want to be clear that that means that is not an option, that this is part of what's mandated in policy that officers sign off on as the greater and broader picture of all of the policies that make up the rules and regulations of the police department. Both entities, both the state and the city of Evanston, seek to provide as much assistance as possible to immigrants while evaluating the needs of the community as a whole when it comes to public safety. When it comes to civil immigration enforcement, it needs to be clearly known as well that this is a federal responsibility. The city of Evanston and its police department, we are local law enforcement officers. We work at the local level, and we are not federal law enforcement officers. Therefore, with that said, the Evanston Police Department will not stop, arrest, search, or detain based solely on the belief that a person is in the United States illegally. We will not arrest or detain based on an administrative, also known as a non-criminal warrant or a violation of civil immigration law. We will not permit ICE, also known as Immigration and Customs Enforcement, access to anybody who is in our custody who is not subject to a criminal warrant at the federal level. And we will not transfer any persons to ICE custody who is also not subject to a federal criminal warrant. We will not allow ICE to use non-public areas of the Evanston Police Department or participate in ICE operations within or outside the city of Evanston. And again, this is all codified in Evanston's ordinances as well as Evanston Police Department policy. I'd like to touch on something that was spoken of recently through the International Association of Chiefs of Police. This is a worldwide organization whose law enforcement professionals are committed to community safety and police professionalism. IACP recently did release an immigration enforcement policy fact sheet. And as part of that fact sheet, IACP leadership is stating that they are strongly opposed to proposals that would mandate rather than allow state and local police agencies to play a significant role in the enforcement of federal immigration law. The ICP believes that the issue of non-federal police participation in immigration enforcement is an inherently local decision. In other words, that local municipalities, such as the city of Evanston, as well as, of course, many others, should make those decisions on their own as to what level of participation, if any, they choose to have with the federal government when it comes to immigration enforcement. I'd like to also speak about the Attorney General's office here in the state of Illinois. The Attorney General, Kwame Raoul, is the top law enforcement official in the entire state of Illinois. The Attorney General's office has also put out guidance regarding how law enforcement practices, how law enforcement should practice when contacting immigrants in the community. No matter the desire of federal authorities, we are governed by the laws of the state of Illinois until if and when a court were to decide otherwise. The Office of the Attorney General has published a guide titled Guidance, Illinois Law Governing Law Enforcement Interactions with Immigrant Communities. As part of the guidance from the Attorney General's office to the state of Illinois, it does state that law enforcement authorities in Illinois generally are prohibited from assisting with any civil immigration enforcement operations. State law prohibits law enforcement from entering into immigration enforcement agreements with immigration authorities, from complying with immigration detainers, from transferring individuals into immigration agents' custody without a criminal warrant, and from allowing immigration agents access to state and local facilities for investigative or enforcement purposes. Local law enforcement agencies may not detain an individual beyond his or her release date pursuant to an immigration detainer or civil immigration warrant. And Illinois law also prohibits local law enforcement agencies from treating individuals in their custody differently on the basis of their citizenship or immigration status. The point that I do wish to make clear today is that at the state level, the state of Illinois, at the local level here in the city of Evanston, with the support of the Attorney General, the top law enforcement official in the state of Illinois, are all really on the same page as far as the information that's being disseminated to the community, the laws and ordinances that are codified through our rules and regulations as a city, and of course at the state level as well. Everybody's acting in concert on the same page. When the community does have contact with Evanston police officers, as we talk here at the local level, when we talk about people being questioned during police contact, there's often some misbeliefs or misunderstanding about what information Evanston police officers can or will ask for or will not. And it's important to me as a representative of the Evanston Police Department to make very clear what we can and cannot do and what we will and will not do. The Evanston Police Department personnel will not ask for immigration status or ask citizenship questions to anyone calling and wishing to report an incident to police, witnesses to an incident that the police will respond to, motorists who are stopped for traffic infractions, or individuals arrested and in our custody. I believe I've captured just about any way in which we as the police department would come in contact with members of our community or visitors here to the city of Evanston. But essentially, in summary, what that is stating is that we do not ask immigration status or citizenship status to anyone that we contact while performing our daily duties. That is the end of the presentation regarding the Evanston Police Department, and I really appreciate everybody's attention to the information provided today. This does conclude our presentation this evening for Know Your Rights. Again, we do appreciate the community coming out and taking part in this important topic. Thank you.